Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto 2 Blue Vortex discussion. Today, we're going to be talking about that highly controversial moment at the end of the last manga chapter that I'm sure many of you guys have very super strong opinions on, which, as you can tell from the thumbnail, is Jura sniping out Boruto at the end of the last manga chapter, and we just went full on deranged meme. Probably gonna piss people off with the thumbnail. Truly do not care. For those of you guys who are curious, this is not the chapter review. The editor is working on the review right now, has been working on it since the 17th, so it should be ready for tomorrow. The early release this month, it gave us one fewer day to get the video done because the chapters usually drop on the 20th, but it is being worked on, and the final review is around 24 minutes in length because I had quite a bit to say about the chapter, a little more than normal. So I thank you guys again in advance for your patience for waiting for the review. So jumping right into it, I think the way that Jura was used in this chapter was absolutely brilliant, and it perfectly adds to his character by continuing to make him the most dominant, dangerous threat out there, while also, most importantly, subverting our expectations as readers, which that is something that a good mangaka makes it a point to do. I've seen some people get upset that Boruto, he got sniped out in this chapter, but I personally feel this was the right decision to make, and allow me to explain to you why, and hopefully win you over if you're one of these fans that I've been seeing that have been really displeased about what it is we've been given in chapter 12 of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. So what Jura did here, it was brilliant because it effectively is writing him as an even larger threat than before, and he is showing the signs and the flashes of being the type of villain we have not had in the franchise for a while, which is the very methodical villain who is very calculating in his approach, and as is calculating as he is dangerous. If this were your typical meathead battle shonen, Jura just would have swooped in and he would have started throwing hands in. For as much as I would have wanted to see that, God knows I would have popped if Jura and Hidari just would start tag teaming and wrecking everybody. This takes us all the way back to what makes a good villain and what made some of the most iconic villains in the Naruto franchise so iconic. They only spoke when it was time to say checkmate. Now, obviously, I don't mean literally. But it's an expression that means you move in silence until you're ready to declare victory, which when it comes to battles shonen, that's usually done preemptively. Villains get super cocky. Also, you can have that moment where the hero, they pull out the role reversal, and then if it's the anime, you hear the anime opening music playing as they come back from seemingly defeated. With Boruto, our villains outside of Momoshiki, they haven't truly been shown as being long gamers. You can argue Jigen, but we'll get to that in a moment. So with Boruto, our villains, they've mostly been like Shojoji. He came and went, and he gave off the vibes of being like a meathead, a bootleg Sopranos villain. Al in the manga, he was nothing more than a hired gun, nothing more, nothing less. Jigen, he had that incredible aura about him, and he did show that he was willing to wait for others to hang themselves like he did with Kashin Koji, and by extension, by getting the information and the confirmation that Amato was one betraying him. A big part of the reason I was so sad to see Jigen go when he finally did get killed by Koji. Ishiki, he was more aura dependent, kind of living off the fumes of what we saw with Jigen's character, and he appears to be thrown in the waste bin unless there's a plot twist coming with the Konoha to the Code has, still holding on to that hope. Now Code, that boy, he can't put together two lefts in order to make a right turn. However, with Jura, we've seen from the jump that this guy is different. He is special. While everyone was fighting Boruto in chapter 4 to Blue Vortex, this guy, he's just surveying the situation. Instead of just giving chase after Boruto and hunting him down like he said at the end of the chapter, Jura was shown taking the time to fortify his defenses by guiding the awakened Shinju towards their targets of what it was they wanted to consume. And as he was doing so, Jura was doing something that went unnoticed by a lot of fans. He was putting in the batteries in the backs of the other Shinju, and by having them willing to give chase after their targets, it allowed him to potentially start splitting up the forces of Konoha in a way where the Shinju, they're getting a fulfillment, and they'll also end up creating an easier opportunity to consume one of the two Otsutsuki that they're after, because Konoha's attention will be so shifted. He then proceeded to take more time to go through and read dozens of books, maybe hundreds of books, gaining more knowledge and intel, and he wasn't doing so by going in blindly without knowing his enemy and how how the world that he's going into works. Knowledge is a power, and he even took the time to prepare someone like Hidari by pointing out his weakness by saying, hey, you can't properly use the Chidori unless you have the Sharingan, and that belongs to Sarada. Sarada is your target, by the way. By being shown gaining intel, the narrative showed us that this is a very calculating individual who doesn't leave himself room for many strategic blunders. While he didn't know that Naruto no longer possesses the QB and that Himawari is now the one who has Kurama, he still moved in accordance to his plan. He gave chase. He let Hidari have his fun with Sarada and her team, and then when he saw Boruto had appeared, instead of rushing after him and grabbing Himawari, which if he did that, nobody would blame him. Instead, Jura just sat back patiently, and it's a mirror to what we saw in the Mujin Bandits arc. So the mission plan that was given to Team Konohamaru was to wreck the Chunin who worked for Shojoji, but allow them to flee, at least one of them, so they could follow them back to the hideout, and then Konoha would send in a team of Jonin to battle Shojoji. But Boruto obviously screwed it up by attacking the remaining Chunin with the Rasengan. Jura acted on the same principle here when you look at it. Instead of giving chase to Boruto, he stayed put in order to see how things would play out, much to the dismay of a lot of short-sighted people. The reason this is so smart, it goes back to something that the 48 Laws of Power talks about, which is Law number 17, which says you keep others in suspended terror by cultivating an air of unpredictability. As the law says, human beings, they are creatures of habit with an insatiable need to see familiarity in other people's actions. Predictability, it gives control. You turn the tables by doing the unexpected when it's least expected, because it throws your enemy off and it makes them start playing catch up in order to explain your motives, which allows you to use strategy to intimidate and terrorize, or as the other laws say, get others to play with the cards that you're dealing and stir up waters to catch a fish. By causing intentional disruption, you make it easier to move the pieces that you want around in a way that is most beneficial to you. Jura did that here, as well as another law, which is use absence in order to increase standing. Sometimes the best move to make is to make no move at all, which is why Kawaki was so puzzled when he saw Jura just standing there with his hands in his pocket, looking super unserious, looking in the direction of the village, but never making any hostile moves. Kawaki, someone who is calculated. Now, he is emotional. Boy, that boy is emotional and hot-headed, but nevertheless, he is calculated. He couldn't figure out any of Jura's moves, and he didn't dare try to attack because he still remembered getting turned into Sleepy Kawaki merchandise coming soon, along with Make Konoha Great Again merchandise. The last time they fought Kawaki, Kawaki couldn't read Jura, and so he left Delta behind. This whole time, Jura, he watched the fight with Boruto and Sarada versus Hidari. He saw their attack patterns, the way that their petty squabbles between Boruto and Konohamaru at times led to them being off guard, and Jura saw the thumbscrew to the target. The one thing to focus on that would give him a chance to take down Boruto. It was just a matter of waiting for the right moment to present itself. He has always been written as viewing the other Shinju as pawns when you look between the lines of how his character operates. They are pieces that can be moved around and sacrificed where need be. That's why I didn't rush in to save Hidari. For what? Everyone was so focused on battling Hidari, who was summoning claw grinds and trying to use the numbers advantage, and their attention, it wasn't even on him at this point. And as every strategy book, from 48 Laws of Power to 33 Strategies of War to the Art of War itself, the granddaddy of all strategy books, they will tell you time and time again, you never interrupt your enemy when they are making a mistake. You just let them keep putting the rope around their necks before you finally kick away the chair. By waiting, Jura was able to gain more intel, like seeing Boruto's trump card now in action. We know that it wasn't just sight that Jura was in possession of either. He clearly heard Boruto give the explanation of what the Thorn Soul is, and that's how he needed to save Sasuke, which means he didn't just see Boruto use the Rasengan Uzuhiko max output, but he also heard Boruto reveal the weakness. It has to be used on someone who cannot fly, which Jura can do. And most importantly, Boruto needs to stay on the ground with both feet while he gathers chakra for the attack. Those are two key weaknesses to a very powerful attack that would be strong enough to kill someone like Jura in one hit if Boruto is allowed the time to gather the power for the attack itself. Jura, by sniping out Boruto first, he has now seemingly taken out, or at the very least severely damaged, the strongest chess piece on the board, because he isn't worried about Kawaki, someone who he's beaten the brakes off of before because Kawaki's lightweight. He's taken out Kawaki as easy as I'm benching 220 pounds. Hence, he treats him like he's an afterthought. For Jura, he's now removed Boruto and he's left the chaos because there are a number of people in Konoha who don't know exactly where he is. Outside of Kawaki, who is connected to Delta via the sensory unit, so they know as well, and it becomes even scarier to go after someone who effectively has the high ground in this scenario. You have to get to them because they have a loaded gun, whereas all you can do, you can try to close in the gap because they can just sit back and snipe off Bijudama at you. Sure, Delta could try to fight Jura and she could buy you a few seconds, but one hit and he's gonna have Delta either longing for more abuse or she's going to get completely destroyed by it. There is no defending against Jura here if you're Delta. This only serves to further raise the danger level of Jura and his aura by showing readers that he isn't just strong, but he's also observant, he's also calculating, but he's most importantly patient and opportunistic. He's got the chance to be remembered as a truly menacing villain if all of this is handled correctly. I'm not going to go into spoilers, but it is worth repeating what I've said before. I did not compare Jura to Kaiju number 9 and to Cell for no reason. Both Kishimoto and Ikimoto are huge fans of the Kaiju genre, so you can bet they know about Kaiju number 8 because it's been a monster in Japan for the last 4.5 years, despite it only getting an anime this year, and both of them are fans of Dragon Ball. So they're aware of Cell, who, like Kaiju number 9, is calculating and patient, willing to play the long game and move pieces in play in a way where it's most beneficial to him before he finally strikes. Nothing is ever done without reason with those two characters, and by the time you catch on, they're already setting up the next move. The only real question left for Jura is, did he unintentionally open Pandora's box that was known as Momoshiki by hitting Boruto in his vital spot, leaving him near death? Is this the moment where he makes a mistake that someone in the world of Chainsaw Man makes when they say the word "Save me, Chainsaw Man," which this video on the left is the Chainsaw Man chapter review, which covers the insane plot twist that the new chapter just dropped, and over here on the right we have the spoiler video for Boruto. As the last reminder, the review should be out tomorrow if everything goes as planned. The review editor is working, so I thank you for your patience.